What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you.
Bye, wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hey kids, good afternoon and welcome to my show, Finn's Chat Corner. I had to think about the name of my own show. Isn't that pathetic? Well, that's probably because I took a good week or so off. Thank you so much to everybody who sent me all those lovely, lovely messages, text messages, email messages, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada about the hospital. I appreciate it. Yes, I'm alive and it looks like I will be well with a lot more medication. So I just need a little time off. So thank you guys so much. And thank you so much for all of your love and appreciation and kindness in the regard of my sister with the recent development with the breast cancer. I really, really, really appreciate it so much. Without further ado, I don't want to waste too much time babbling on and on and on because my guest is so much more superb, so much more lovely than I, and I can't wait to talk to her. So without further ado, let's get Anna on the line and start speaking to her. Hello, Anna.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm terribly nervous, though. I'm just terribly nervous.
Why?
You're an icon. Good Lord, woman.
Oh, my God. If Audrey Hepburn was an icon, I'm,
you're an icon. You are an incredible superwoman. I was like, my God, I didn't even know some of this. I mean, when I researched you, I was like, oh, my God, I didn't know that about her. So I've learned lots of things about you. I paid very close attention, and you're one of my absolute favorites from the show, although I don't really watch the show anymore. You were one of my favorites because you're very brawny, you're very ballsy. I like that word, and I think you'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
And you're very blonde.
I love Yeah. Well, I think
and
on
I like
a show
that.
like that, if you don't, you need to kind of, hold your own and not let people put words in your mouth. And they're trying to accomplish something, and that is to make it, to make things a little bit more sensational than they are. So the producers did not love me. I can tell you that for sure. Every time they tried to get me to say something, I would be like, no, how about no? They wanted us to, participate in all sorts of things, and all the other girls always thought it was such a wonderful idea, and I was like, how about no? Does no work for you? I'm going to go with no.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying.
I don't really regret I'm sorry, I'm talking over you. I'm terrible on radio for that reason because I'm Cuban, and so I am trying to talk with my hands and trying to get the word in edgewise. But what I was going to say was that on a show like that, a lot of people have always asked me, why did you do that? And, you didn't need to do that. You're an attorney, and there's so much risk involved with the editing and everything else. And I always felt that it was, garbage in, garbage out, right? If I don't say it, they can't print it, but that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, right.
But, I felt that I had widgets to sell, right? And I had my, certain things that I was working on, and that the platform was a great opportunity to let people know about who I was. And I also was very honest about what was going on in my life at the time. When they said reality, I took reality to heart, and I really did show them exactly what was happening in my life, including my divorce and everything else.
Right. I was going to mention that, actually, since we're on the whole Real Housewives thing. There's really only 2 questions that I wanted to ask, and the first of which is, of course, was there a toll, not only on yourself, but your beautiful daughters as well? Because it was a very public, you were very honest about Robert and yourself and the situation and such. Does that take a toll on you? Does it almost invite in trouble because the entire world has now been in your household, literally? How complicated and complex was that for you?
I really found that whole experience cathartic, and I think that my girls did too. The decision to be on the show was, and everybody says that, but in our case, my daughters were already adults. Robert and I had been separated for a long time, but it's always been a very, in fact, right before I called you, I just got off the phone with him. And I was on the phone with him for 30 minutes complaining about my brother and, other situations and family issues, and because he can understand, he's been around forever. so he and I are very good friends. But my girls understood that we were getting divorced, and they also understood that that we were doing this on national television. And I think that everybody found the whole process. I think we got to talk about things that maybe we wouldn't have spoken about otherwise if we weren't kind of forced to. So it was almost like therapeutic.
Nice. Very nice. I mean, that's good to hear, because most of the time when I've talked to some of the other girls in some of the other franchises, they've just found it so invasive, and their privacy was just, it was just an awful experience for them. They couldn't really have any time to themselves and such. And so that leads into my second question, which is, because you were on Miami, and I've interviewed people from New York, New Jersey, their experiences are a little bit different. Aviva Drescher was on the show, and she was very frank about just how much editing, how much sound biting, how many changes, how many things that go on. But my question to you is this. Because most people listening to the show today are never going to be on a reality show. They're never going to be on television for that matter. So they adore the position that you were in. So maybe just give them a little bird's eye view of the non-spectacular. Does that make sense? Because we all idolize these television personalities and we think, cool. Yeah. Is there a non-spectacular? Really?
Right. The non-spectacular part of it is 95% of it. There is very little spectacular about it, I have to say. In fact, it would be much faster for me to tell you what the great things are. Maybe that you don't wait as long for a reservation, If you want to go to the Cheesecake Factory, they don't give you the beeper, because they're just happy that you're there, that kind of thing. But, it isn't. There is, first of all, everybody thinks that they, somebody gets to your house every day and does your hair and your makeup and gives you your wardrobe, and that's not the case, at least for us. There is not a ton of money involved. Maybe Nene makes a ton of money, but our show that was kind of like a newer show, and a show that did not have a proven track record and really never had the ratings. We were paid, I can tell you exactly what we were paid. We were paid $40,000 with 5% increases per year. So that's not a lot of money.
I gotcha.
Because when you have to buy your own clothes and everything else. So, and if you notice during the interview process, whenever you see us talking into the camera, directly to the camera, everybody's a little bit more glammed up, because that they will pay for. They will pay for hair and makeup on that day. And so, yes, some of us will get things sent to us by, designers and things like that for special occasions. But for the most part, it's, some of these ladies don't go to, Walgreens without their hair and makeup person, having a crack at them first. That's not me. So I started that show. I never wore hair extensions. I never wore lashes. I never spray tanned. And then after I was on for a while, I was like, wait a season? I didn't. And then now I feel weird if I don't, I feel white and I feel like I have no hair unless I have some clip-in extensions. It's terrible.
Oh my God.
They've created a monster.
Oh my God.
I'm like all fake now.
Oh my God. Look at your pictures, woman.
I was so normal before. I was so normal before. Now it takes a village,
No, I completely understand. I get it. I do. I get it. So, folks, just so you know, the listening audience is listening.
Yeah.
Yes. There you go. What we're going to do, because there's just so much of you, is I literally have just put a montage together. So basically we're just going to go one thing by one thing by one thing, and by the end of the day here, everybody is going to know as much as I know about you. And, folks, it's overwhelming. I mean, it's just overwhelming. So since we're on the TV side of things, I want to mention two things that you've also done. On the TV series side of things, I know you did The Crew, and forgive me if I screw this up, Sabores de Familia. And then you also co-hosted The View, which I found was interesting.
Yes.
Let's hope you can resurrect my thoughts on that.
Yes.
I don't like The View. I don't like them. They're mean, I think.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you.
What was that like?
When I did The View, I did The View twice. And that's another thing that, that's why I can't really talk, bad about the Housewives, because it created opportunities that I probably wouldn't have had otherwise. And not a lot of people get invited on The View to co-host. But I they knew that I was I guess, on the smart side, right? And they knew that I could handle it, and so they invited me once, and then I was invited again. And the first time I went on, it was still when The View was The View, when Joy Behar was there. I believe she's coming back.
Oh.
I love Joy Behar. I think she is wonderful. And so that first time, it was just something that was on my bucket list. And I remember telling my manager at the time, I would love to do The View. And he said, well, then I'm going to have to get you a meeting with Barbara and Bill Getty, who was the producer at the time. And, let me see. And I was like, that's bullshit. There's no way he's going to get me a meeting. And, 3 or 4 days later, he calls me, goes, you have to be in New York on Tuesday. You're going to meet with Barbara. And so I walk into ABC to meet with them. And I'm like, okay. So I sit there, and they start asking me all sorts of questions. And he says to me, well, you don't really look like a Latina. How are you a Latina? And I'm like, and then he looks down at my shoes, my 6-inch stilettos, and he goes, oh, yeah, you're Latina. It was really funny. I thought the meeting went really well. And then a couple of weeks later, he gives me a call, and he says, you're going to be on The View, like, in 2 days. And you're going to interview John Stamos, and you're co-hosting, and blah, blah, blah. And I remember arriving there and feeling like, oh, my God, I can't, just nervous. And they put you in, there's what they call hot topics, right? Because you don't know what you're going to talk about until you get there, because they want it to be, that's the opposite of a lot of what you see. That is really unscripted. The hot topic is a room where you're getting your hair and makeup done, and at the same time the producer sits there with a ton of possible topics, and he'll say, what do you think if we talk about this, or what do you think if we talk about that? And then somebody will say, no, I don't want to, I sound stupid talking about that, or oh no, that's boring, I don't want to do this, or I want to do that. So you have no time to prepare. So everything has to be very off the cuff and very natural.
Gotcha.
And so that's how it was. And I was sitting there like a deer caught in the headlights. And so when they mic'd me and the music started, I remember telling Joy, like, where do I sit? She goes, don't worry, it'll be obvious. And she pushes me out. And the music is sounding and people are clapping and I'm kind of waving because, I'd seen it before on TV. You kind of like do that side wave thing. And I sat down in the middle because it was in the center. I forgot I had my cell phone with me. I sat on my cell phone. And the second I sat down, I thought, I'm home. I felt zero nervousness. I just felt like this is right. This is great. And it was the most comfortable, fun thing I've ever done.
Nice.
And the same thing the second time I went, and same with the Chew, which is kind of like The View with food. That was a lot of fun too. I think I might have flirted a little bit too much with Michael Schwartz. Not Michael Schwartz, what's his name? Michael Simon. But I had a lot of fun doing that.
That is way cool, actually. That is neat.
Yeah,
that begs me to ask that question. Before we move off the TV thing and onto something else, it occurred to me today, I thought about this. 2 actress friends of mine are getting together to do a web series about cooking. And I thought to myself, Anna would be just why is she not doing a YouTube series? Why is she not doing a web series? Why does she not have a show of her own? So is that an ignorant question? Is this in the works?
No, it's not an ignorant question. It's very hard been talking to Food Network and Cooking Channel, and, we've been doing that for a long time. The problem with Cooking Channel and Food Network, which I love and we all love, is that the audience tends to be a little fickle. They like to know intimately the personalities. So that's why you'll see like Guy Fieri or any of the other chefs having 4, 5, 6 shows each. They are it's hard for them to welcome somebody new. So the game plan is for me to start doing some like judging, maybe Iron Chef or Chopped or some other shows, and then kind of transition into doing a show. That is one thing I would love to do. I would also love to do something in talk. The whole web series, that kind of stuff. I've been approached about it. I haven't, but I think I'm so old-fashioned when it comes to that. I'm not a very tech-savvy person. I don't really know how to, I try to do my best with social media, but I'm not that great, and I didn't even understand the concept of what a web series was. But then now you see shows on Netflix and things of that nature, and you realize that that is a whole new area, and really with the millennials, you can really create a huge following that way. So yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. If anybody's out there that's interested, call me. We'll figure something out.
Way cool. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I wanted to find out about that for reasons we'll get to at the end of this interview. Okay. Next big chunk of Anna's life. Not dissimilar to most people that end up in the public eye, and I'm always such a fan of individuals who do this, of course. On the charity side of things, I know in the past that you have done events or participated in events which benefited American Diabetes Association, the American Heart Association, 3 which are close to your heart, which I know, the American Cancer Society, St. Jude's, and Amigos for Kids.
Yes.
You're also on the board of the Jackson Memorial Hospital Guardian Angels, and I wanted to talk about that in particular. I have a nephew who actually happens to be autistic, and so I know that you've developed a gluten-free diet, if I'm not mistaken, for autistic individuals.
Recipes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that in terms of how you got involved with that, how you became a board member on there, and why is that significant to you?
Well, the whole autism speaks. My partner in Skinny Latina, and he's the former owner of IMUSA, the cookware company, and so he's now my partner in Skinny Latina. He has a son that's on the spectrum, and he got very involved in Autism Speaks and asked me the first time to help them develop some gluten-free recipes. And one of my best friends, Glenda, her son has Asperger's syndrome. And I didn't realize how, prevalent this was and how much, the right diet and that kind of thing can help. When you have children that are healthy and don't have any kind of, either learning disabilities or any kind of limitations at all, you feel very, very lucky. And so, you use what you know, and if I have an ability to create, recipes that kids will love, they have enough challenges already. So if I can come up with something that they can eat that they're going to really enjoy, the whole thing with autism is that, I think it's, I think back to people in my family or, friends of my family that went undiagnosed that were probably on the spectrum. So there's, anything that brings awareness to that, is something that, and anything having to do with children's issues. And with the whole children's hospital is also something, anything, again, when you have healthy children, you feel very blessed, and it's just very easy for me to give my time to things having to do with kids. I've always wanted to do something with Alzheimer's. My dad had, suffered from Alzheimer's, and I find it to be the cruelest, most difficult disease on a family, on the person. It robs you of your dignity, and I've always wanted to get involved in that. But, it's hard. You spread yourself so thin. Things with veterans, my brother was in Kabul, and, things like Wounded Warrior Project. Like, I love all those. I wish I could spend the whole day doing that kind of stuff. But so far I've, tried to focus on things having to do with kids where my time is, the use of my time is benefits as many people as possible.
Oh, of course.
And whatever
definitely.
I can bring to the table.
I don't want to forget to mention this because I just happened to, when I was creeping on you and investigating and doing my job, I noticed that I want to make a shout-out for this because I know you're attending. There's a St. Jude's. It's all about the kids event that's coming up at JW Marriott, and that's on the 19th at 7:30. So we want to make sure to let everybody know because I know that you're attending, obviously. I will not be in Florida, but I know that you are.
That's a wonderful event. Yes.
Definitely.
That is a great
event. So we want to make a shout-out for that. And I don't want to forget to ask you this question because I saw on your wall one day and I thought it was so cute and ironic because you had a post up about bipolar, and I thought to myself, she would be a great person to do stuff for mental health. And I say this because I'm no lie. I'm a professor, and I've been very honest. I'm 25 years now being a patient. I'm as wacky as you get from the bipolar thing. And I make a joke out of it because people think you're crazy. They do. They think you're nuts when you're bipolar, and I'm like, no. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a documentary on this. But I was just curious to ask you that. Like, has it ever crossed your mind? Like, yeah, maybe I should do. There aren't a lot of spokespeople or people out there I've noticed that have really done major, substantial, or even much of anything. Mental health-wise, it just seems like it's kind of lower on the food chain. Maybe it's me.
Yeah, because I think that people feel, and that actually that I posted was a cocktail napkins that somebody brought me because I love cocktail napkins that are really funny, and that one said, I hate being bipolar. It's awesome. So I thought it was really funny. I think that the terms depression, bipolar, psychotic, crazy, schizophrenic, they tend to be overused.
Right.
That's the first thing. And then when you are diagnosed that way, I think people are afraid that it is going to affect, obviously, potential relationships, their jobs, everything.
Sure.
People that have mental illness, and fortunately with the way medicine is now, it can be controlled if you take your medication and everything else.
Right.
But I think people are afraid to admit. I think it would be great if somebody in a position like, I don't know, if Beyonce says, hey, I'm bipolar. Not that Beyonce's bipolar, but I'm just saying it would probably glam up the, people would probably want to be bipolar, right?
Right.
So I think that it's for that. I think that it gives. I think people think that mental illness is a choice, that they don't really see it as something chemically wrong in your brain. That's just like when you talk about, somebody that's gay, right? It's like you can't pray away the gay, you know what I mean? Like you can't, because people are born that way. And it's the same thing when you have some kind of mental illness. It's not something that if you try really hard and try to control your emotions that you're going to fix it. You need to get help for it. And I
Bingo.
Fortunately, And then, of course, most men think that all women are crazy. So it's so funny. Every time I speak to any guy that breaks up with his girlfriend, everyone is crazy. Like, why is every woman crazy? This is so funny. Oh, my God.
Oh, I know. I agree.
See, if I hear one more time, let's define crazy. What, that she didn't like the fact that you were having sex with your secretary? Oh, God, that's crazy. Or, which one is it? What exactly made her crazy? So that's a pet peeve of mine.
Oh, funny. Very funny. Okay, the next side of Anna is the most relatable, I think, for some of us, and that obviously, of course, you have been a real estate attorney for a significant amount of time. To those of you that don't know, she attended both FIU and, of course, Nova Southeastern University School of Law. So a couple quick questions relative to that side of you. To those that are living in Florida, we, of course, want you to talk about your practice and how long you've been there. And moreover, do you find that it's harder or you are less approached from the law side of things, meaning has your business enhanced, or maybe has it become more difficult for people to come in and say, hey, I want to hire this woman as an attorney because, sometimes people can be very intimidated by a public figure, especially a television figure. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I have gotten so busy with everything else that I'm doing, the books and expanding the brand and everything else, that I rarely practice anymore. I am just starting to get to the point where I want to get back into it because I did transactional real estate for so long and I still have a lot of contacts in that area. So it's funny that you should mention that because I was just starting to talk to some of my contacts and banks and realtors and, people in that, in that world to let them know that I was going to start on a limited basis doing that again because I do miss it. I stay very connected to the legal community in the sense that I like to speak at events and they ask me to participate and I'll be a panelist and, with the Florida Association of Women Lawyers or the Dade County Bar, whether we talk about, sometimes they ask me to speak on issues of like social media, things of that nature. So I really try to stay connected because it's very much a part of who I am. And I don't want to, forget that side of me. I just think it's really neat that now I get to use both sides of my brain, the whole very analytical. But now that I'm doing something more creative, it's really fun. And I'm a master multitasker, so I kind of like wearing the different hats and juggling different things. And now that I see that, kind of like the Skinny Latina's doing a lot on its own, that I can get back in there and do a little bit more law again.
You betcha. Definitely.
But,
one of these neat little fun fact about this girl, which I just recently found out, apparently this was the very first year for the Coral Gables Fashion Week, and you hosted. So talk to me about that. How exciting and how cool was that?
That was fun. I hadn't done any. I don't know if I hosted anything before that. I might have. I've emceed a couple of things, but that was really fun. The fact that they asked me to do that, and what was really fun was all the outfit changes, and that all the different stores got to dress me, but it's it's a little daunting. You're out there and you have these people looking at you, and they're sitting there going like, okay, entertain me, say something clever, say something funny, but I'm very comfortable. I think. Speaking, to people, I feel like everyone's my friend. I feel like you're just like me, like we're the same. So you get me, and I'm honest and a little self-deprecating when I have to be, and doesn't this look great? And thank God for the Spanx and that kind of thing. You have to be like that, because I think that a lot of times. I was not too long ago at a restaurant with another one of the girls on the show, and who shall remain nameless. And
of course,
some young girl came up to us and said, "Oh, I really want to take a picture." And she goes, "I'm not doing pictures today." And she goes, "No, I want to take a picture with Anna because I'm in law school and she's my favorite." And I thought that I was so glad that happened. And I looked at her and I said, I'll do the picture, because here's the thing, we're not celebrities. I don't understand why any of them think they are celebrities. A celebrity is somebody that knows, has some kind of craft, right? Whether you're a great actress or a great singer or anything. But we go on these shows and a lot of us make fools of ourselves, others less so, but to some extent it's reality, right? So it doesn't require any particular skill. So then how are you a celebrity? Just because people see you in that big tube they have in their house, it doesn't make any sense. So you need to be grateful that anybody wants to take a picture with you, because you have no skill set. You know what I'm saying? I have a skill set.
Yes, I do.
Like I can cook really well, and I'm a lawyer, and I'm all that, but none of that was used in the show. So the fact that they want to take a picture with me, I'm flattered. And I don't understand why they would say no pictures. That's ridiculous. I think I just thought that was a really funny story when the girl said, no.
Oh, my God, yes.
It's not, you don't want to take a picture with.
My. And I can guess which one cast member that is,
no,
but I'm not going to go there.
Sure you could.
I'm sure I could. And what irritates me about her, because I'm suspecting I know who it is that she was supposed to come on my show, and then her publicist was like, "Oh, she didn't come on the show? Oh, she forgot." I'm like, really? She forgot.
Oh.
Yeah, I sent her the questions. I prepare for how long, and she forgot. And I'm like, thanks a lot. Appreciate that. You're not getting back on my show now, honey. And it's funny you say the celebrity thing, because my view has always been, and I tell my audience this all the time, to me personally, I consider Anna a celebrity, not for the reasons that people think, not because that you are on a Real Housewife franchise. It's because you inspire, you educate, you entertain, you motivate. Anyone who does that is got the celebrity tag for me. That's me.
Right.
That's my thought. It doesn't have to be, you were on TV, whatever have you, and all that good stuff. Okay, so before we move on to the personal side of things, because I think it's very important to talk about Anna as a person, because you're not just a TV mogul, and you're not just an author, and you're not just a mom. You're all different things. Talk to me a little bit about, most people may not know that you're a spokesperson for, is it IMUSA, and I'm not quite sure exactly what that stands for. But
I was for a long time. I don't know if my bio still says that, but I did. That's how I started on TV.
That's what
it is IMUSA is a very large cookware company. I mean, I love them. I use a lot of their products. I'm no longer their spokesperson. I want to say that Aaron Sanchez's and Michelle Bernstein, I don't do that much with them. Every once in a while I'll do like a one-off thing, but I've done, endorsement deals with like Unilever and with Smithfield, and I do stuff with Estee Lauder and Bobby Brown.
Okay.
So those things change all the time.
Okay.
And of course I partner with Target, which is, I'm probably their, Latin, food person. And, I'm very proud of my association with Target, because I think Target is, I think they're such a great brand. I love the fact that it's accessible to everyone. And a lot of times I will go to events where, you know, people will be wearing $5,000 designer dresses, and I will be wearing something that was $34.99 at Target, and you would never know it. And I love that. I love that somebody can tell me,
I agree.
You know, where did you get that? I love it, and that they know that they can go get it too. That's important to me.
Oh, I agree. 150%. I do the same thing myself. Of course, I'm broke, so that's just the bottom line. When you're broke, you can't spend more than $34. You're like, that's all I'm spending. But it looks good on camera, so it's like, okay, I know. I just admitted it, folks. We all know I'm broke.
No,
but
and it's
okay.
nice. And sometimes designers send me, and sometimes I wear some very nice, expensive dresses, and sometimes designers send me some really nice things, and sometimes I, you know, but I like to mix it up because I like, you know, But yeah, I work a lot with a bunch of different brands.
Exactly. I agree. And that's the whole last part of our show here we're going to get into in a little while. We'll talk about your cookbooks. We're going to talk about the Skinny Latina. We're going to talk about all the places you've appeared. Right now we're just strictly talking about Anna as a person. Obviously, I know that you grew up in Miami, obviously. I didn't know, which is interesting. We're going to talk about your mom and your dad. You have said publicly, which I thought was so touching, was the fact that your father, he just recently he would have been 80-some years old in August, as I know, because he had passed on. And the one thing you said that was amazing, or that was, he believed in you. And on the flip side of the fence, I know that your mother was very instrumental in terms of the cooking side of things and in implementing some of that. So I'd like you to talk about the influences that both your mom and your dad had. And interestingly, your mom is part Cuban but also part Chinese. So I'm curious. I know you do a lot of the Cuban cooking stuff, but I haven't seen as much of the Chinese part, and I thought that was a little different.
Yeah, well, there was a huge Cuban Chinese population. Like there's the Chinese, they call it Barrio Chino, and so there's a lot of Chinese Cubans. And my mother, if you see her, she doesn't even look like my mom. My mom is, you know, 5 feet tall, and she's as cute as a button, but she doesn't look like my mother. And her father was Chinese. My grandfather, I almost spoke in Chinese almost all the time, so I never really understood him. And they're very ethnocentric Chinese people, so everyone in her family, her 5 brothers and sisters, all married within the Chinese, you know, population in Cuba. And except my mom, who married my dad, who was Cuban but of Spanish descent, you know, blonde, blue-eyed, and, you know, so my brother and I were not the favorite grandchildren because we didn't look Chinese, and my entire family on my mother's side looks Chinese. So it is kind of funny, but there are a lot here in Miami, a lot of people that I've met that are Cuban Chinese. I do have, I think, in my Sabor cookbook a recipe for a fried rice, which is a Cuban style fried rice, because it was Chinese and Cuban mixed together. There was that kind of fusion. And my grandfather was a great cook, but he, you know, would put MSG on everything and.
I gotcha.
And I didn't really communicate with him that well because towards the end, he was much older than my grandmother, and he just spoke Chinese. I didn't understand him, and but my mother was very instrumental in my desire to pursue cooking. I didn't really think I would do cooking as a career, but certainly she passed on that nurturing gene, which I think you either have it or you don't. That desire to kind of feed people and take care of people, and you know, I a lot of times I'll cook and I won't even eat what I cook because by the time I'm done tasting it 50 times and smelling it, I'm not even hungry. But to see somebody eat something that I prepared, it feels great, and you know, just. I think I got that from her. I remember growing up thinking, you know, everything is at my house. My house was Grand Central Station. Everything happened there. Every party, we would celebrate, you know, Christmas Eve and Thanksgiving and Groundhog Day. It didn't matter what day it was. It was my mother in the kitchen cooking. And I thought, wow, that's a lot of work for her. And now I'm the same way. Everything can be at my house, and I don't feel like anyone's taking advantage of the fact that I'm cooking. I do enlist the help of everybody and get everybody cooking because everyone loves that. I mean, I think that Food Network and all the TV cooking has really changed the way people feel about cooking. I don't think that people now think that it's slave labor or something that makes you somehow less. I think it's a great skill set and an art form, and I think that I think everyone wants to learn a little bit about cooking. So,
I agree. I do. I agree.
And then my dad was, just, he was my hero. He thought that he was the most vain. He was very handsome, but vain to a fault, but vain for himself and for me. Like, he thought that I was, that I should have been Miss Universe and whatever. And when I said, Dad, listen, I know that you think I'm real pretty and everything, but I'm never going to be in a beauty pageant because I'm really smart and I want to be a lawyer. And he was like, really? But, like, you're so pretty. Why do you want to be? But then when I told him I wanted to be a lawyer, he was like, oh, well, she's going to be a lawyer. She's going to be the greatest lawyer in the whole world. My mother was more like, why don't you become a kindergarten teacher? And it's like, not that there's anything wrong with being a kindergarten teacher, but trust me, I'm not cut out to be a kindergarten teacher. So he always, there was just, I could do no wrong. I could do no wrong, and the sky was the limit. And when you feel that, I mean, I think that's, it's to this day, I mean, he's been gone for a long time, but every time I doubt my ability to do something, I hear him saying, of course you can do that. Easy, that it's nothing. You can do it with your eyes closed.
You bet. And folks, just so that you know this, obviously y'all got beat with that beauty stick because I saw that picture of your brother, and I assume he's your only sibling, or do you have sisters as well?
Yes, he's my only brother. Yeah.
Okay. He's not ugly. I'm just going to go on record on radio and saying the boy's pretty. It was just my 3-second observation there.
Yes.
Nice
He's very
looking.
cute. Very cute, and
he's
very
cute.
much in shape, and he's a good guy, a really good guy.
Yes. And military individual, actually. I know that he was in the Army and now serves in the reserves and such. And so is it difficult for him? Because obviously he knows you was just honest. So, I mean, now that you've accumulated all the success and fame, does that tend to change things a little bit, meaning that personal time is just few and far between? And even with your daughters, per se, I mean, does it just become things are more invasive for you?
Not really. My girls never cared too much about the Housewife thing. They think the whole thing is ridiculous, so they never. Okay. They'll watch shows like the other day. I think they were watching like Luann and the daughter doing this dance on Andy's show, and my daughter was like, "We would sooner die." Like there is not enough money in the Western Hemisphere for us to do anything like that. Ever. They just don't care about it. And so when anybody says, oh, your mom, the housewife, they just roll their eyes and think like, yeah, okay. They just don't think it's, they don't even talk about it. They don't tell anybody. There's certainly nothing they brag about. My brother is clueless about it. Most of all that happened while he was away. So whenever I'm somewhere and somebody recognizes me and wants to take a picture of me, he goes, what, do you know that person? And I'm like, no. And he goes, why do they want to take a picture with you? I'm like, oh, because of the show, he's like, whatever, I don't want to know. But no, it doesn't really, like, he doesn't, he doesn't get it. Now, he's also a lawyer, and so now he's he's back to practicing law, and people at his firm are like, your sister is, I know your last name, wasn't your sister a housewife? And he's like, what does that mean? What does that even mean? You're not even married. The whole concept is so foreign to him. He's very practical. And, not into any of that glamorous stuff. He's an athlete and, the world traveler. And he's like, he just doesn't get it.
I get you. No, I understand. Yeah. Now, to the folks that are listening in, I'm going to tell you some facts that I know about her. First of all, I see you talk about sports. I'm like, the girl's into sports, which I think is so cool. She's got a great sense of humor and at times a very sarcastic sense of humor. Your hashtags are hilarious. I just look at those and I laugh. She is very loyal to her fans, and I see this constantly in all the comments that have been made, the stories that have been written about you with it, which I think is just it's lovely. She speaks 3 different languages that I'm aware of, which is, of course, obviously our native tongue, English, Spanish, French, of course, as well. Strict Catholic, which I was born and raised strict Catholic myself. I can also tell you that she's a Jeb Bush supporter. And I know that always ruffles feathers, and I'm like, I don't get ruffled by anyone or anything. I just don't. I'm like, you know what? If you ask me right now who I would vote for, it would probably be Jeb Bush, and I'm not going to lie. I think we're in a lot of trouble, you know, and I think that it's disheartening that we live in a day and age like this. You know what I mean? I think we're in trouble, and I think someone needs to step up and be responsible, and I guess I'm just not sure, is this all going to work out for us?
It's hard. I mean, I know that Jeb lately has, you know, he's not been the Jeb that we know. He's very comfortable in Florida, and I think that he's been a little bit like a deer caught in the headlights because Trump is a lot. You know what I mean? Trump is a reality TV star, you know? And Jeb is low-key and solid and the real deal. And he needs to kind of, you know, we want to see a pissed-off Jeb. You know, we do. We want to see him show, because he's got that in him. So it's time that he just shows it. You know, I like him. He's moderate. He obviously is a conservative and a Republican. So, but he's, you know, pro-life, but he makes exceptions for the life of the mother, for rape, for incest. You know, as far as gay marriage, that's a done deal. He has no interest in overturning Roe v. Wade or anything like that. I mean, he is somebody that cares about our economy, cares about national security, cares about foreign policy. And I think that he's a smart guy. I think, you know, at this point, it's like the lesser of all evils, you know. You know, it bothers me a lot when women, you know, are saying, no, I want to vote for Hillary because, you know, it's girl power. It's like, how is that girl power? Like, I would love that in my lifetime that there would be a woman president, but not that woman. You know, not that woman. I agree with you. So I hope, you know, I hope they impanel a grand jury, and I hope that she has to answer to, like any other person would have to answer to, the things that she has done. And the rest of it, it's anybody's ball game at this point. But yes, I do support Jeb. I think he's a solid guy, a great guy, but there's also other great candidates, and, you know, I don't force it upon anybody, but I'm very honest. I'm not on the fence about anything. You know, I'm not a wishy-washy person. So if I'm supporting you, then I support you, good, bad, or ugly.
Exactly. I agree. Bingo. Now, I want you to break the hearts of America, because I have guy friends that listen to my show, and then they always check out my guests, and, oh, guess what? Surprise! Anna's so beautiful. Is she taken? And that answer would be, because I know the answer.
Do you know the answer?
Is she good to reveal that? Well, last I heard, according to research, am I wrong in my finding? Last I heard it on your Facebook as well. Is that ring still on that finger?
No.
Get out. Get out of Dodge. Shut the front door. Serious? I'm way disappointed, man. Are you kidding me? You're single now? Oh, I'm sorry, honey. That sucks. Because I'm single too, but I'm just saying I'm a loser. Okay,
I will
that's
agree
different.
with you that I agree with you that it does suck. There is no shortage of people to date. There aren't that many people that are fully evolved and that are interesting. But no, I don't know. It's a really hard question. He and I are still very good friends. He's a wonderful person.
Oh, good though.
His daughters and my daughters are still consider themselves. We were like a real family. So, you never know what's going to happen in the future. But no, I'm currently single. I'm not so ready to mingle, but I am single.
Oh, boys. So let me see. So are you accepting applications? And if so, what kind of guy gets Anna's attention? Because I got to tell you, boys, you better have game on and over to even walk up to this girl in public.
I have a very, very specific type. I really do. I like nerdy.
Is it Cuban?
No, not really, not necessarily. I mean, I've mostly dated Cubans. I haven't dated that much because I got married very young and I was married for a long time. But up to now, they've been Cuban. I don't have an issue with that, but I like nerdy. I don't know how to explain that. I'm not talking about like a pocket protector or the guys that are in the Big Bang Theory. I'm talking about people that are, that read books on a regular basis, that like to, I don't know, I don't like anybody that's very cool or that's really that much into fashion, or I don't know how to explain it. It's hard to
not a pretty boy.
No. I'll be the pretty one. But I don't want anybody that's looking in the mirror excessively. I mean, my ex-fiance was very handsome, and so is my ex-husband, and so but that's not what I was looking for. They have to be smart. They have to have a good sense of humor. Small kids are not. I have no maternal instinct left. It's gone.
Oh my God.
So I'm being honest. So if little kids is not just but I would like the person to have children, my daughters, and I think that I would want somebody to understand that. And if you've never been a parent, then they wouldn't understand why I make Easter baskets for my daughters when they're 23 and 24 years old.
Exactly. No, I totally get it. I totally get it. I completely do. So, I have actor friends, director friends, the business. I guess I'm curious about that. Would you date in business? Because sometimes dating in the same business is very complex.
Yeah, up to now I've only ever dated lawyers and have not been obviously very successful in that department. So I don't care what the profession is. I don't think I would have a problem with that. I don't think I would have. Cool. I think it all boils down to chemistry. You either have it or you don't. You can't force that kind of thing.
I agree.
So when the time I'm not interested in younger like young guy. That doesn't do it for me for some reason.
Well,
I like somebody that remembers.
Yes.
I want the person to remember where they were the day that Nixon resigned. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want them to go like, who's Nixon? So I like the person to be somewhat contemporary. Like at least from the same.
I understand completely. I do.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on to all of these other accomplishments, please, please, please tell everyone what I know already, because I watch your wall all the time and I see it. Obviously, one of your daughters is pursuing law, which you must be ecstatic about that. And, of course, you have your younger daughter as well. Talk to the public a little bit about what you want them to know on the mother side of things and just what you've learned from your children, because we typically as mothers pass things on. But what have you learned from them?
Well, I have two daughters. My daughters are like Irish twins, so they're only 11 months apart, and they're 23 and 24. They'll be 24 and 25 in October. My oldest daughter has just started her third year at the University of Florida in law school, and that's what she was meant to do. I mean, she is Anna circa 1990, I mean, it's so funny. She is truly mini-me. It's funny to see because she takes herself so seriously, she's so into being a lawyer, but it's fun to watch. I mean, I think ultimately we just want our kids to be happy, and I know everyone says that, but when you come from a Cuban family, it's a little harder. My mother doesn't understand why I'm okay with my daughters living, far away from me, and it's not that I'm okay with it, but I'm okay when they're happy and when they're thriving and when they're doing exactly what they want to do. So she is exactly where she needs to be. I have no doubt that's what she loves. My other daughter got a master's in cinematic arts and motion pictures, and she lives in LA. And she is producing Project Runway Junior. She should be in front of the camera, but likes to do production, work behind the scenes. She loves LA. She's become very LA. I don't know if I even know how to explain what that means, but she, she's that person, she drinks green juice and tells me to relax all the time, and she has an incredible sense of humor, and she's she's happy. She has a great boyfriend over there and has a nice life, and is doing exactly what she wants to be doing. And so, fortunately with things like Snapchat and Vine and FaceTime, and we talk all the time, and I still get at least once a day, a picture of like, what do I do? Should I wear this or should I not wear that? And or what do you, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Horrified
really cool.
about how
very,
much
very
they're
neat.
deducting from her check, the IRS. And so we're still very, very connected. And in fact, one of them is driving down today to my, so she's driving down from Gainesville right now. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's very, very cool. And you folks should see her on her Facebook page because she really is a gushing mom. I mean, and if you didn't know she was on television, you'd think she's just a regular mom who's just like all about her kids like every 14.5 seconds because that's exactly, she's always got things geared to that, which is really, really awesome. Definitely. Okay, now I'm going to let you rest for a few seconds. Now, folks, I want you to listen to this array of stuff. This is the woman I'm talking to. So when I first started off and said how nervous I was, folks, now you're going to know why. In 2011, she was named Miami's hottest chef, and that was by Eater magazine. She's been featured in the following: Latina magazine, In the Loop, Strategy magazine. She's been featured at South Beach Wine and Food Festival. She's made appearances on The Today Show, HLN, New York City Live, CBS's The Couch, CNN in Espanol, and, of course, obviously Bravo Television. And she has been a speaker at some of these different organizational meetings, Women in Business Conference, the 2015 Emerge of the American Conference, Dade County Bar Association's Bench and Bar Conference, and Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce Champions of Business. Now, on top of all of that, let's talk about the cooking side of things. Now, first and foremost, I want to start off with a personal question before we get to your products, which is this, because I know you know an immense amount. You're very similar to my friend Lana Graziano, but she's a Dago, so she does Italian. You're obviously Cuban. That's different.
Right.
This is my question to you. I have a child, obviously, who is soon to be 11 years old, and he has been a seizure patient for almost 3 years. And so anytime I get somebody on my show who is relatively knowledgeable about food, etc., I ask the obvious question, because as a mother, I grasp for my son's health to come back after 3 years. And so I look for everything, every avenue. So my question to you is going to be, is there any belief or is there any knowledge you possess per se? Certain foods, certain diets, outside of the obvious. I already know what the obvious seizure diets are, and they're very restricting. Things we could try, things that you might know of, anything that might just increase his chances of staying seizure-free. And I know that's a very generalized question, but I'm just a mom. And I don't have any knowledge of that area.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could tell you that I knew anything about that, but I could tell you just very common, sense things, which I'm sure you already know. I think, obviously, the less processed things are, the better. Obviously it's very expensive, but to try to, eat organic as often as possible, non-GMO as often as possible, plant-based, limit animal protein. I don't love, I'm never going to get an endorsement, but milk, I think we give our kids a lot of milk. So I like the concept of almond milk and things of that nature. I'm lactose intolerant, and I do have milk in, my coffee in the morning. I try to use that lactate because I do drink it, but I never grew up drinking, with that big gallon of milk on the table. I found that a lot of those kids tended to be like more overweight, and I don't know. This is just totally my hypothesis. My kids have always been fairly thin, but I also believe in moderation, and I think that I don't think that you should have your kids on such a strict diet that then they don't enjoy it. I mean, food is one of the greatest pleasures, and my daughters went to kind of like a real prissy all-girls school where the moms, haven't had a carb since 1986, and they wanted to impose that on their daughters. And then when they would come to my house, they would tilt the refrigerator into their mouths, because it's like, hey, there's Oreos here. And it's like, my girls always had Oreos or cookies or whatever it was, but they didn't eat them all the time because they weren't forbidden. So I think a nice balance, but for the most, a treat every now and then, but for the most part, kind of shop the perimeter of the grocery store, of things that are fresh and things that are, and limit the processed stuff because, it's hard to trust people that are making the food these days. It's hard to trust, whenever I love the idea of shopping local and from farmers markets and where you can get to know the person that actually grew the stuff, you know, to know what you're really putting in your bodies. And that's not always practical, but I would say that we had less seizures, less cancer, less everything when there was less processed food. So
right.
I think that if we go back to less processed food, we might see a decrease in the incidence of those things.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, it was worth a shot anyways. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to keep asking until somebody has an answer. You know, I'm not giving up. You know,
Yeah.
The minute you do that, you're kind of, you know, stuck in that corner. All right. So let's talk about Skinny Latina. Skinny Latina, of course, you have partnered with various different Target stores across the country. And as I understand it, it is gluten-free marinades that you have come up with. So I'd like you to talk three different things in this particular area. First of all, how long you have been in business established with your partner. Second of all, how you aligned yourself with the Target stores. And then third of all, what makes your gluten-free product stand out amongst everyone else's?
Okay. Well, I started making this stuff in my kitchen, and I've been making it forever. I call it cooking for dummies in a bottle, cooking courage in a bottle. It is it's a combination of things, citrus juices and spices, etc., that if you put it on anything, that anything is going to taste better. So, you know, if you put it on styrofoam, it'll make the styrofoam taste good. And I'm not kidding. So I started making that, and I would put it just on my own food. And then I had my friends who had a boyfriend coming over, and can you give me some of that stuff that you put on everything that tastes so good? And so then I started giving it to people, making it into mason jars. And at one point I thought, you know, I should market and sell this. And I didn't realize how difficult that would be, because it is a very difficult process, you know, as far as getting into stores and shelf stability testing and UPC numbers. And I mean, it is a complicated process, really like learning a new language. But once I was on the horse, I was going to keep doing it. And so I found a co-packer. I created the thing. I had it tested. And the first store I got into was the Fresh Market store, which, in fact, I just left the Fresh Market store now because they keep running out. It sells incredibly well. The people that have tasted it tend to buy it over and over again, because it's much more than a marinade. It is a flavor enhancer. It is a sauce. You know, you reduce it, you can make it into a sauce. You don't have to marinate with it. You can actually cook with it. So if you're, you know, making roast chicken in the oven, you pour, a bottle of this stuff over it. You put it in the oven, and when it comes out, you have your chicken, full of flavor and the sauce. You can also add things to the sauce and create other sauces, which I have, on my website. I just did a thing with Target recently where they were featuring their fondue pots, and we did skinny dips. So I made 7 different sauces using that as a base. The reason it was patterned after a mojo. Mojo is a traditional Latin marinade, but mojo, if you were to buy mojo at the store and try to drink it or taste it from the bottle, it tastes like, I don't know, antifreeze. I mean, it's awful. This is because it's all natural, because it's gluten-free, because there's nothing in there. I mean, you could pour it over fresh greens and it tastes good. And it doesn't have that flavor profile that is so distinctly Latin that you would think, I can only use this on a Cuban dish or on a Latin dish. It really makes everything taste better. So, I don't know, how it's just, I don't know that it's better. I'm sure there's lots of, let me just drink some water. Hold on a second.
Okay, go right ahead.
I'm not going to say that it's better than every product out there, but I know that people who try it buy it again and again. I think the fact that it's gluten-free is a great bonus. I think there's a lot of people, not only people with autistic children, but people who suffer from celiac disease, and just a lot of us that just feel that gluten is something that we just don't need. I mean, gluten makes you all fluffy,
Right.
I didn't realize that before, but I'll spend 1 week on a gluten-free diet before I'm going to go to the beach, and I'm telling you, I see the difference. So
Right.
it doesn't hurt that it's gluten-free. But, yeah, it's it's one of those super versatile products. I feel like I'm the Pied Piper of cooking. I want people to feel confident cooking, and I think there's a lot of people that go to the store and think, well, I'm going to spend whatever, $15 on 4 organic chicken breasts, and I'm going to get home and it's going to taste like crap and it's going to be awful. And just knowing that this is in their arsenal, that they're going to, the feeling that you get when you cook for somebody else, and that person really appreciates that you've made something for them that they're putting in their body. Number one, it's the greatest expression of love, but for the person cooking, it's such a great feeling. So I think that there is information overload out there on cooking, and again, the cookbooks out there are complicated. The Food Network, they talk about let's make a braised rabbit in Madeira sauce. It's like nobody wants to eat rabbit, and it's like, there's 5 kinds of goat cheese. It's like, well, I thought there was only one kind of goat, it's too much information. And I think that people want something simple, and that if you have this little trick up your sleeve, that if you're making a pasta sauce and it needs that little oomph and you don't know where to get it, you pour some of that in there. If you're making your Bloody Marys and it needs a little depth of flavor, you can pour some of that in there. I mean, you can literally put this on anything, and you can grill with it, roast with it, use it in the crock pot, everything. So it's really
nice.
Some of my friends joke around and they tell me that it's crack because they can't live without it.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's a testament to you. Oh, honey, that's okay. I don't want you to die, because then I'm seriously screwed. She comes on my show and then she dies, and then they're all hating me like, oh my God, you killed her.
It'll all be your fault, and then who's going to make the
I know, right? I know. Wonderful. I can't wait. Now, as if the Skinny Latina thing wasn't enough to handle, of course, obviously in her illustrious career, she's done a total of 3 different books. Cuban Chicks Can Cook, which I think is so awesome. And then Sabor, A Passion for Cuban Cuisine, and then Versailles Restaurant Cookbook, which I didn't know this, but the forward is done by my fantasy interview person. In my time, he's been on my program already. I mean, he's literally been here twice, and he said, Cindy, I love you, and I'm going to let you be in a movie with me. And I'm like, okay, holla, because you're beautiful. I love him. I would give, half my arm to interview him. I'm like, he's on my fantasy 10. I have a fantasy 10 list, and they're all the guys that I want to interview.
Such a down-to-earth, cool guy, and a real family man.
Oh, my God. I knew it.
There's never been a scandal. Have you ever heard of a scandal with him and another woman? Nothing like that.
No.
He's all about his wife,
hear about
kids.
him. Exactly.
No.
Exactly.
His childhood sweetheart. He's a really solid guy. I like him a lot.
I knew it.
But yeah, Versailles is very famous. It's an iconic Cuban restaurant. It's been around for 44 years. Okay. It's the kind of thing that if you come to Miami, every president since Nixon has gone to Versailles on the campaign trail. And, everyone goes there. Beyonce and Jay-Z were there not too long ago. Everybody from the Food Network. I mean, yeah, it's a really cool place. It's the kind of thing, you think of Miami, you think Cuban food, you think Versailles. So I was very proud to be part of that, and it's a great place. And I'm definitely proud of that book.
And just so you folks know, we're talking about Andy Garcia, in case you don't recognize him. He's like the most beautiful person in the world. One of them, besides Michael Madsen and a few others that are on my list of, things. Now, as it relates to the 3 cookbooks, to most people that are listening in, obviously, 2 different questions here. First of all, how do you distinguish between them? Like, let's say they would go to the Barnes & Noble and they look at your cookbooks and they're trying to figure out, okay, which one do I want to get? We all want them to buy 3, but that may not happen. So let's distinguish between each of these. And most importantly, if I were to ask you the recipe that you use the most, what would you tell me?
Well, probably the arroz con pollo. I think it's one of the best anywhere. People really love it. One of my favorite things is like reading the Amazon or the the reviews, because people really find my book user friendly. and they get great results, and that's so important because it's very nice to have a book full of pretty pictures and everything else, but if the recipes don't work, then what's the point? So the first book, The Cuban Chicks Can Cook, was a little book that was self-published. I wrote it as a legacy for my girls. I have seen books out there that were Cuban fusion, that weren't really true, hardcore Cuban food, and I had received, my hand-me-down cookbook from my mother, this cookbook that kind of every daughter got from their mother and their grandmother, and the book just wasn't user-friendly, and I knew that my girls would probably never use it. So I decided to write this little book and kind of tell lots of stories about growing up first-generation Cuban-American. So it's not only a compilation of recipes, there's a lot of writing in there.
Gotcha.
It's a little book. It doesn't have pictures. It doesn't have anything. It's a little paperback book. Very cute. Cool name. And then I was approached by Running Press, a big publishing house, because they liked my voice and they liked the stories and wanted to do a bigger book. So I would say that Sabor is like the big sister of Cuban Chicks Can Cook, a bigger book.
Okay.
It has color photographs. It's a beautiful book. It has twice as many recipes, all very traditional Cuban recipes. And so, if I were to choose between the two, I think Cuban Chicks Can Cook is probably not even available at bookstores anymore. You would probably have to order it from Amazon. The other one is at most bookstores, Sabor, and then, of course, Versailles is as well. Versailles is they're not my recipes. They are the recipes of the restaurant.
Right.
It was the hardest book to write by far because I had to adapt restaurant recipes to home use. And, we're talking they would do things, with gallons and, an entire side of beef and things that aren't easily sourced out by home cooks. So, that was hard to work with, but they're awesome recipes and obviously the restaurant is iconic and it's kind of,
Right.
So for I don't know. I mean, they're all very different, but I think Sabor, if you want a real peek into like homemade, home cooking, Cuban style, no holds barred, and get pictures and everything else, Sabor would be great, and also the Versailles one to have as far as for authentic, traditional Cuban food, the real deal.
Gotcha. I understand completely. Now, to those of the outside world, of course, do you often go off, and I don't know that you have. I haven't seen you posting things like this, where you actually do book signings for your books. Do you still do that, or do people have the ability, the public that is, to come and see you or purchase them from you, et cetera? Because, of course, obviously some authors will do that.
Yeah, I haven't done one for Sabor in a long time because the book came out, the paperback was re-released in 2011.
Right.
We're going to do one for the Versailles before December here in Miami. But, I haven't stayed on top of that. I should do more of that, and I think that it's really just a matter of calling the bookstores and letting them know, I'm going to do this book signing. So, if there happens to be a demand for people to, or I'm going to be somewhere, then I used to be more organized about that. I'm just kind of spreading myself so thin. But if, let's say, I'm going to be in New York, then there's that, I can definitely put together a small book signing at a local bookstore. I love, the idea of the smaller bookstores.
Sure.
I love those. Somehow I feel like I'm protecting Meg Ryan's mom and You've Got Mail.
I love that. That's so
nice.
cute. How funny, folks. Yeah. She comes onto my show, and now she's reminded, oh, yeah, I should be practicing law. Oh, yeah, I should be working on those book signings. Oh, yeah. These little checkpoints here.
Exactly.
And, folks, you should know that these recipes also, and I'm assuming this is still a fact, that they're shared. There's a Spanish web resource, and I think it's called Viva, I don't know how to pronounce that. But it's also, there's a Spanish web resource, right? So the rest of your recipes are on there as well. So Spanish-speaking folks
I think
can utilize that too.
And now partnered with a company called Chef recently, which is great. And what they do is that you go on their website, and they have all different chefs, not only me, celebrity chefs, and it's our recipes, and they will send you everything you need to make certain recipes. So, like, I have on there arroz con pollo, I have carne con pavos, which is a Cuban-style beef stew, and then this pasta with chorizo and ham, which is really amazing. And it's beautiful how they send it to you in this box. Every ingredient perfectly portioned. If you don't have to go to the grocery store, but then you can still cook at home some of my recipes. So
nice.
You might want to check that out because it's really neat and really affordable. Considering, how much money you spend at the grocery store and the fact that you don't even have to go there.
Oh, you're not kidding. You betcha.
Yeah.
Now, the last question that I have before we sum up the business stuff here, which is this, because obviously we want to talk about your future. So there's been two things that have been dissed around here, which is, of course, a discussion about you doing a fourth book, and then, of course, the possibility of opening a restaurant. So I'm just curious to ask you, are either of these going to become a reality at some point?
Yes, I have a manuscript for a skinny, skinny Latina, basically, cookbook, which lightens up traditional Latin recipes. I have, so I am working on that. I also have another book that I'm working on called The Arsenal, Recipes Every Girl Should Be Armed With. That is not necessarily Latin food, but it's basically a book that gives you, it goes against the idea of this information overload. It teaches you how to roast the perfect chicken, how to make a martini, how to make an omelet, like something very basic, and gives you step-by-step instructions for the non-cooks in the world. You know what I mean? So, like, locate your kitchen. It's the one with the big silver box kind of thing. So I have those two books in the works now. And as far as the restaurant, I think about it, and I've toyed with the idea a lot. I will do that one day. I don't feel that I'm ready to do that now. I am a horrible delegator. I'm a horrible delegator. My obsession with food is such that I would have to touch every single plate that leaves the kitchen. I would not trust anyone enough, and I would never leave the restaurant. I would have to do like one of those air mattresses in the back and just sleep there every day because to me, if it has my name on it, if I'm involved in it, if it's a representation of me, especially food. I won't be able to. I can't let go. So I think that it would be something that I would do when I'm a little older, where then it would be totally okay for me to be there all day and all night. But yes, someday I would like to do it because I do believe that that's an important part of.
I get it. I do. And I'm excited because I was like, oh, my God, she so has to do a restaurant. She so has to do another book. She so has to do this or this. I like having an agenda for you. Listen to this. Like, I figured it out already.
You do, right?
This should be on his life is what I'm hoping. So you did reaffirm some of those things. So there's just two more things that we have to do. We'll go through this list. To those of you, I have been very careful, notice, not to say Anna's last name because it's disrespectful when you can't pronounce it. So let's pronounce it. You pronounce your last name how?
Like King, like if you want it phonetically, like King. Like Quincoces.
Okay. Oh, Quincoces.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
see, that's
perfect.
not so bad. Okay.
When you break
now,
it down,
she
it's not
has
that hard.
and I wrote it down right now because I'm like, I don't want to screw this up. So she has a personal Facebook page, of course. Her Twitter handle is and it's Anna is spelled ANA, and then it's QOOKS. The website, and I'll spell that out for you folks, it's www.anaquincoces.com. She can also be found, of course, on BravoTV.com for all the Real Housewives of Miami stuff in case you haven't watched. YouTube, Google+, she's on LinkedIn. She has an IMDb profile. She can have her products purchased through Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Target, of course, any other place where people can find you on social media.
Whole Foods, Whole Foods and the Fresh Market also has my product.
Okay. I didn't want to forget about that.
Anywhere else. I have a blog called eatthinkpretty.com.
Oh, yeah. That's right. We forgot to mention that. That's right. Okay, I gotcha. That's right. And I'm going to be posting all of this stuff on my page as well as the show page, so that this way everybody can look you up. There's really only two more details because I think you're going to die if you stay on my phone anymore because you're coughing and coughing and coughing and I'm feeling guilty. So, I know, right? I'm just like all of a sudden we're having a lovely conversation and she's dying. See, now lesson learned to you. When you approached me and you said, well, what could we talk about for an hour? Now you can see why I said an hour. It goes very quickly, doesn't it? It's like
it does
goes
go
quickly.
very quickly.
Hopefully this interview has been a little different than most you've done before, because I've read a lot of your interviews.
Absolutely.
And I've seen you interview, and I've tried very, very hard to accent. So there's only two things we do on this show. First of all, I have two invitations for you, and then the last thing is I get to tell you what I think of you, and that takes a lot of balls because you're a real housewife, and I've been like nervous all day, like, oh my God, I can't say this.
You don't want me to go over
but
there
now I'm okay.
and flip your table?
No, not at all. So these are my two invitations for you. The first time that I saw you on television, and then I thought to myself, okay, and then I started to get to know her through social media. And now I'm at a very good place in my own career where I know lots of people. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, I have a very, very dear friend who's an independent filmmaker. And so my question to you is, if I asked you or if he asked you to do a stint within the course of a movie, like a cooking scene or something, would you do it?
Yeah, I don't see why
and
not.
You can say
it
no.
doesn't interfere with anything. No, I mean, it depends what it is. You know, if I don't have to cook naked or, you know. But yeah, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind doing something like that.
Cool. That's what I
Especially
thought, because I was like, you know what?
And if I could be cooking with skinny Latina products, I would especially love
it. Without a doubt. You know, it's one of those things where it's kind of like, you know, I always like to put my friends together. I like to network people in this industry with this industry. It works well. And then second of all, obviously, of course, and I gave this invitation to somebody else too, because I'm like, okay, and I don't even know if you'll be in New York or not, but I'm going to be doing red carpet interviews at the Golden Fest in Jersey City. It's a film festival, and I saw you went to the Miami Film Festival. A lot of my friends are there, and I'm like, it's a great networking opportunity. So I'm like, if you're in New York City, like end of September, I think it's the 23rd of September, come along on my dime. I have extra passes. You can certainly come. You can meet all sorts of cool people. The Servinos run that festival, like Mira Servino and Paul Servino.
Very cool. I love film festivals. It's one of my favorite things. The 23rd of September, I will be in L.A. I'm taking my mother to visit my daughter, and I'm filming something over there. But, yes, because my mother's never been to visit my daughter, and the other day she told me that when she looks at the map and sees how far Miami is from L.A., she cries. So I felt terrible, and so I'm taking her with me on a work trip to visit her. But otherwise, I would have loved to, and if, you know, the opportunity arises again next year, I would definitely plan on it, because I love I'm a huge film buff, and obviously
I saw that.
Love independent films and that kind of stuff.
Yes. That's why I asked that question, definitely. Okay, so now we finally reached that pivotal point in time, so this way you can get off to your child, of course, and I can get off to celebrating, because I have great news to celebrate tonight, so I'm, like, excited and all pumped up and all that good stuff. But this was the highlight of my day, and I'm not going to lie. Even though I got this wonderful news, I'm like, you know what, I've been nervous. I've been waiting a long time to get her on my show. I finally have you. So these are my thoughts of Anna, and I do this with every guest only because most people that listen in recognize you as a celebrity person, and I think that there's far more. So these are just my personal observations of you from a professional and a personal standpoint. So here we go. So the very first time that I talked to Anna, not only was she very professional and very welcoming, but she was just very sweet. Her disposition was, just as I mentioned at the start of this interview, very ballsy, very brassy. Her tone and her demeanor are so funny, because if you walked to your local bar, you could probably see Anna standing there, and she would just be so approachable and she's so humble. Humble is a quality in today's industry that we don't see, in the entertainment industry in particular. You are never diva-like. You are never dastardly in intent, as I always call it. You are a very intelligent woman. And when I say intelligent, I mean that you have built yourself an empire on the basis and foundation of starting off as a regular working-class individual. You associated yourself with a program, but you did not let that program identify you or the people around you or take over your home, your life, or your loves. That is highly commendable. The fact that you speak for yourself, the fact that people listen to you, they admire you, they idolize you, and I've heard this from my friends. They look up to you as an individual who can teach them something, who can inspire and motivate them, and I find that remarkable. The fact that you spend so much time on philanthropy, to me, is amazing, and so many different causes and so many different times in your life. You are the Energizer Bunny, and I'm here to tell you, folks, she talks about having insomnia. I have no idea why, because I'd be dropping my ass dead on the floor if I were her right now. But she has this magnetism and this inward energy where it's just, I want to keep going. to better herself, to better the lives of her children, and to make a compounded influence on the people in her state, the people in other places. And she is nothing short of a high-class lady. Not broad, a high-class lady. You are wonderful on your show. You are a wonderful human being to talk to. God, you must know that when I come to Florida, I will knock on your door, if nothing else, to say, can I stock Andy Garcia, or can I try some of your products?
Of course. Of course. I absolutely expect you to. Well, that's
that would be lovely.
Nice. Oh, my God. That's
very true.
That's a high praise, and I really appreciate it, and I hope I can live up to it.
Oh, you already have lived up to it. And oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, and I hear this from people all the time. I don't think individuals like yourself are on TV unless somebody sits down with you, like for me, and says, here, you're going to be on my show, and I get to tell you this. I get feedback from people all of the time that talk about, oh, you know that girl, and did you know this or this, and she just seems really so-and-so. So this is really my only opportunity to ever get to tell somebody like that, like you in this case, how much people actually adore you and they think you're wonderful, and they like your I don't want to say loudmouth approach, but just you're walking into a room being very blunt and saying, this is how I feel about this, and I'm not going to be told what I'm going to say, and I'm not going to be told how to act, and this is really who I am. And on a side note, one of my best friends in the world is like crazy in love with you and wants to go out on a date. So if I come to Florida, maybe I'll bring him with. I don't know if he's your type, and you may not be single by then, but he's drooling through this whole interview, and I'm like, okay, got to throw that out there. But I am very, very blessed, and I consider myself very, very fortunate. Like I said, hopefully with any luck at all, I might be in Florida in the next 2 weeks. My one of my family members, it's not a bloodline, but she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and her surgery is coming in the next 2 weeks. I'm trying to raise money for her and surprise her and fly out to Florida. But she's in West Palm Beach, so I don't know if you guys are close, if that's close to you.
Yeah, West Palm Beach is not not super close, but it's maybe like an hour and a little bit over an hour. But yeah, if I'm around, we should definitely try to get together. But I've really enjoyed this interview. I didn't think that an hour would, that we would fill an hour, but I think we could fill another hour, and it was very, very enjoyable. And you learned about me, but I think I learned a lot about myself too in this process, which is great.
Definitely. I would love that.
And I'm very happy for your news too.
I am. I'm excited. And so it's always exciting to have another ladder on the rung, and I'm just getting to be like, wow. I'm kind of getting to be like you, only on a much lower scale, meaning I'm not as recognizable as you, but I'm getting to do the same kind of film and all that good stuff and getting involved in entertainment. And it's exciting. It's very exciting, and I'm very blessed, and I'm trying to stay very humble. So it's awesome. But, yeah, I will, after I get off air, I will send you my information. I will let you know how to get a hold of me, and then we can hopefully coordinate. And thank you so much for giving me all this time.
Wonderful. No, and thank you. Thank you. It was lots of fun.
Anytime, my dear.
Thank you to
Have
all
fun
your
with your child. Thank you very much.
You.
And let's stay in touch. I'll talk to you soon, hon.
All right.
You too.
Okay, honey. Bye.
Thank you so much, everybody. Was she absolutely fabulous and amazing, or what? So it's Anna, and I am going to try not to screw this up completely. It's King, and the last name is Coses. Now, once again, she's got a Facebook personal page. She has a Twitter handle, which is and it's Anna, A-N-A, and it's Quooks. The website, www.anna, and again, Quincoces.com. Products at Fresh Market, Whole Foods, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Her work can also be seen on YouTube, obviously Bravo Television, which is Real Housewives of Miami. She has a Google Plus account. She also has a LinkedIn account. And, of course, obviously skinnylatina.com. And, of course, if you go to the Target stores, that's where her product is. Huge thanks to Anna. Oh, my gosh, I was so very nervous for nothing, apparently, because we almost seemed like two peas in a pod. Thank you so much to my listening audience, to everybody that has participated in today's program. Don't forget tomorrow, 2 o'clock Central Standard Time, Jim Madonna, which is Power Rock podcast man. I mean, he's just a rock god. And so I'm very, very excited, and he's also a personal friend of mine. 2 o'clock Central Standard Time tomorrow. We'll talk to you then.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. By singing dog. By goal.
I pronounce you
Bye,
husband.
wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you
Bye,
husband.
wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.